Our next project, again, a drawing lesson. Not so much drawing, but more thinking about color. We're going to do a drawing presentation of Indian corn. It's moving into fall. Indian corn, pumpkins, apple spice, Starbucks pumpkin spice is all out, coming out, and we're getting ready for the change in season. It's really nice to have a change in season. We're going to use the Indian corn, not very complicated. I'm going to only do one ear and the husk. We're going to play with the color a lot. Indian corn's bright, and you can get all different colors Indian corn. It's really fascinating. I always want to buy it new every year when I see it in the store because I love the colors and the shape and just the whole idea of it. We're going to use, again, the colored pastel pencils because I want you to realize the mixture of colors you can actually put together and get some really stunning effects in a very small space. So let's get to this Indian corn. Again, using the Master Touch colored pastel pencils, and I have an array of colors here, as you can see. It's not a very big piece, nor is it a very large thing to draw, but there is a lot of detail and color. The color is the detail here. The color and the texture. We're drawing Indian corn. We're drawing one ear of Indian corn, not even the complete ear, and the husk that's on the top. It's pretty dry, so these are the colors for the Indian corn and the husk. I have a 5.5 by 7.5 piece of paper. Kind of an odd size. If you want it 5 by 7, so you can frame it, you can cut it down, or you can use an 8 by 10, you can use a 9 by 12. If you're ambitious, it's up to you how big you want this to be. But I have a 5.5 by 7.5 piece of paper. I'm going to start sketching with this ebony Prismacolor pencil. You can use any drawing pencil for this. Imagining what this is going to be. We're going to have the ear of corn right here, a little bit off center, a little bit. And the husk is going to be coming off like this. Remember, it's dry. I'm going to draw the perimeter of the ear of the corn, and then we're going to talk about what actually happens inside. It isn't exactly shaped like a carrot. It's a little bit smaller at the top. This particular kind, because corn, like everything else, is different depending on the strain or whatever the corn is. I want it to be this tall. This is where the husk is going to come out, and probably about this long. It's going to be wider, of course, but not a whole lot. So I've got the top drawn, and we will bulge it out a little bit on the sides. Same on the other side. We can bulge it out a little more. We went a little bit further, but that's okay. The kernels of the corn are in rows, but they aren't the same size. I'm going to establish the rows first with a very light line. They go the length of the cob. And it has about 4 different rows. They start together up here. Follow the shape of the ear and then meet together on the bottom like so. Might make this a little wider. So let's take this line out. Then I'm going to come back to these kernels. Let's think about the husk. It comes out gracefully at the top like this. And then it bends over. And this particular piece goes this direction. It sort of doubles itself right here. There's another piece of husk that comes out from this side, goes over like this. It's very graceful. And this particular piece of husk is really wide, and some of these are actually wider than the cob. I'm going to take that off. We can do that quite successfully. So we have this. I'm going to add another piece right here that goes under that one. So we have this is a little bit complicated right in here. Let's do this. So we have several things coming off. And right here, there's a little bit of dry piece of husk that's just hanging there. And I think I'm going to add a little bit right there. I don't want that to look like a stem though. And maybe some right there. So let's go back to the kernels. I'm thinking about this and looking at these husks. I think I'm going to make this a little wider. So let's just add another row on this side. I'm going to draw the kernels, each individual one, because they're rounded on the edge. If you've ever really looked at a piece of corn that you're eating, for instance, and they aren't regular. Some of them are misformed for whatever reason, especially these decorative corns are more so than the regular hybrid corn that we eat. So you would think that just, okay, an ear corn, that's easy. But what you're dealing with here is each individual kernel, especially when they are on the Indian corn like this, which is colored, variegated colors. Make some that are not there. So it takes a little bit of patience to color these. You could even make a pencil drawing out of this and just shadow. Without the color in it would be a nice piece. This is a lot of texture to it. Again, they're not all the same shape or size like, again, your hybrid corn would be. They vary. Takes a little patience to draw these out. Actually, the imperfection of this decorative corn is what makes it beautiful. When people are buying the hybrid corn they want to eat, they want all the kernels perfect. Not so much with this kind of corn. Here we go. So this part's drawn. First thing I think I'm going to do is go up into this husk on the top. And let's see, I need to do something right here. I need to add something that I see. There we go. And I'm going to start with this pretty kind of a sienna color here. Put some color in this. It's not as dark as I thought it would be. The husks are not the normal color either. They're a little bit different. I'm going to lighten up a little bit right as I go towards this end. And I think I need like a richer brown. Let me look in my box here. I think all I've got is this. Okay, let's do this. Got some yellow left from the lemons. And that's not dark enough. So I'm going to take the black. That's better. So we're actually kind of blending this as we go here. I'm going to do a little blending and see what this is going to do. Before I do that, I think I'm going to take this color. Is this the one I used? No. Okay. So yeah, like with any other pastel piece, it's a back and forth thing. I think I'm going to add a little of this light yellow here. Again, the color of the paper below is going to change these pastels, so what you think you've got in your hand is going to look different on the paper. That's the characteristic of working on toned paper and using pastels. So I think I'm going to go into some oranges, richen this up a bit. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm just kind of throwing on this colors to get this covered. I think I'm actually going to move into some of these reds here. A red to add to the depth of this hopefully color. Yeah, it's doing it. It's better. Let's lay it down and get some shading going on here. Now you might think it's a little unrealistic, but the husks on these things, because the corn is so different, the husks are a different color too. So I'm going to get that striated edge here. Going to go with this darker again to get some shadows. You want to make sure that what's behind looks behind and not so you can't tell where one stops and the other one takes over. That's dark against light, light against dark. That's how you make that. Make it pop. It's a buildup of different colors on top, underneath, back and forth. You might find it a little tough in the beginning to do this. Takes practice. Don't be afraid to practice. You don't have, you could make one drawing of nothing but the husks just to get a little practice on making it look right. Pretty much all these pieces are practice pieces. It's probably nothing you want to put in the gallery. If you liked it well enough, I guess you could hang it on your wall. Okay, let's get started with these beautiful kernels. What I'm going to do right off the bat before I do anything else is take my trusty charcoal pencil and I'm going to put the highlights. Put the highlights in, work around them. Not every one is highlighted, and some are highlighted more than the others. Probably the bigger ones have a bigger highlight. Needs to be on one side. If you notice, they're all on the left-hand side, so that's probably the light source. But I've found with these pencils, if you put the white in first, it shows better. Otherwise, it's really hard to get it to show over the pastel. So it's a little kind of a pain to work around it, but you can do it. Over here they won't have quite so much because they're on the shadowed side. Somewhat here and there. Okay, now I'm going to take this pretty clear yellow, and right at the top we're going to have a really bright yellow one. And I'm going to look and see where else there could be a yellow one, and while I have it in my hand, I'm going to fill it in. So the beauty of this Indian corn is the kernels are all different colors. So you could just look around and on your own, you don't really need one to look at. Just say, okay, let's just scatter these. It's probably easier to do that than trying to look at some picture and figure out exactly where they go, because they're never the same on any two. I'll change color, and I'm going to pick up this warmer tone pencil. And it is a different color. Okay, this is the fun part, but it's putting all these colors. Here's a beautiful, they actually have this kind of a ruby red. Some of them are ruby red. So just like we did with the yellow, you can just scatter them about here and there, wherever you think it's appropriate. Now I'm going to take the purple. some of these ruby color ones, I'm going to add a little bit of this purple on those colors on the shadowed side, maybe even some of the yellow, because you can see it makes it look luminescent. It's really kind of pretty. Take some of this right up in here too. Let's do this. There, I like that. So it carries the color up into the husk. Helps deepen some of those areas that we were trying to get darker. It works. Okay, let's take some dark blue. Notice I'm leaving a little space between them. That's so I can go back and use the pencil and outline, and there's a space there for the pencil to outline. It's okay to, like I said, to use like these colors, some of them together, because look what happens here when I put a little of this blue on the yellow. It just really makes them pop. It gives them form. This corn actually looks like little jewels. Okay, we have some kind of sienna colored kernels here. Let's do some of these. Right now they look a little fuzzy, but when you go back afterwards and outline everything, it makes it stand out better. You'll see what happens. Okay. Maybe while I have the sienna in my hand, I'll add some of this to these as well. You can push and pull the value, the color value, plus the color on these. It's easy to do with the pastels because they're soft and they blend in with each other and works very well. Okay. Now I'm going to take my black pencil and I'm going to start at the top with the husks, and I'm going to do some detailing here to give it some dimension. I got a little brown pencil that I want to work a bit with because some of these I wanted to make darker brown and the pastel just wasn't doing it. So I'm going to add a little bit of pencil work here. Some of these are really dark on the real corn. I wanted some darker ones here.
Also to show them it's Prismacolor and show them, okay, so they know.
Actually, this pencil is a Dick Blick pencil, one of their colored pencils, and they work pretty good. They're very soft. My preference is Prismacolor because I think the quality is top-notch with them, but these are pretty decent. This looks better because the actual corn does have some really dark little pieces in it. Okay, let's add some down here. So I'm going to take this black pencil now, and I was working up here on this top. I'm going to go back, give some striation to these beautiful husks that are coming out of the corn, and give it a little bit more oomph as far as shape and color and shadowing. As you work with your pencil, it takes some of the pastel off, so you have to keep blowing it off your paper. I'm actually shading here a bit too, because the pastel on this tinted paper, or toned paper I guess it is, this doesn't come out real dark. Let's move to the kernels now. And I'm going to outline each and every one. And they aren't all the same shape. On the edge, they're rounded. In between, you might want to shade a little bit, that inner part where the cob actually is. So you can see they actually look like, to me anyway, they look like little jewels. A little bit of shading in between helps form those little kernels. So it's quite a bit of work outlining everything, but this is worth the work. Gonna darken some of these lines up here. You have the appearances of a pretty easy lesson, but you can see there's a lot of detail, a lot of things to do and consider when you're doing this. But I think this piece is finished. Let's give it a signature and a date. And there you have it, the little jeweled Indian corn.